China is banning iPhones for government officials, and they want to get rid of clothes that are deemed offensive. Now, this is the next stage of the ideological battle, and decoupling is on its way. Welcome to China Insider, I'm David Zhang. China is on a trend to decouple technologically and returning to the Cultural Revolution level of ideological control. We're seeing signs of it closing the door on everyone. If anyone has any doubt about China's future is unfriendly to foreign businesses, this might be the answer you should show them. Now, about a week ago, I heard stories from people in China saying that they could not bring iPhones to work. The managers had told them that this is a verbal requirement and there was no, writings to confirm it. But, I heard this, I was skeptical, but I guess I was wrong. China has now banned government officials and agencies from using iPhones along with other foreign brands, which is citing reducing technological reliance. At the same time, updates suggest that the ban will now extend to state-owned enterprises. I mean, imagine once that happens, Apple's sales will dramatically drop in China because many people in the private industry will also try to win political points by using domestic brands. Now, iPhone's market in China is really big, accounting for about 24% of all iPhone shipments in the second quarter of 2023, so just recently, while in the US market it only accounted for 21%. Now, this may seem like it's simply a case of the CCP punishing Tim Cook, but it's actually more than that. Around the same time, China is also considering banning clothes that are deemed offensive to the nation's feelings. No, this isn't some woke stuff or anti-MAGA hat or LGBTQ flag. This is a pure ideological/propaganda campaign from Beijing. Now, according to this new law, those who, quote, undermine the spirit or hurt the feelings of the Chinese nation could be detained up to 15 days and fined up to 5,000 yuan, which is about $680. Off the top of my head, I mean, things like the Japanese kimono is probably going to land you in a fine, or a jail, or in a fine, whereas, wearing a shirt with the American flag probably also seen as troublesome. But the question is, what makes a piece of clothing actually offensive? Is it color? Is it the length, the style, the prints, or the material? I mean, is a piece of suit offensive now because it's Western style? I mean, isn't Marxism and communism a Western idea too? By that measure, I mean, you'd have to ban everything except for Chinese qipao. But do you also have to reject qipao as an old thinking, right? Or an offensive thing because you're trying to get imperial dynasties back to China? I mean, those are pretty political. The vagueness is precisely what makes the entire situation ridiculous, but that's also why we have to look at the real reason. And that is controlling ideology and controlling how people think. Now, this restriction, I mean, if you consider, what about a shirt that says Xi Jinping is good? Is that going to be interpreted as offending the state leader? I mean, those who create or disseminate articles or speeches are actually also going to face the same type of punishment or fine. So this proposed legal change is actually just another word for saying, we forbidden you from insulting, slandering, or intentionally trying to, otherwise infringing upon the names of these so-called, leadership, heroes, public figures, and so on. If you know anything about the CCP, everything is adjustable to the current political needs. I mean, who is to say today's hero will not be tomorrow's villain? A regular CCP official could be touted as a hero today, but immediately named as a culprit in a graft scandal tomorrow. So the ideas of heroes and villains in the CCP context is just simply a tool to attack enemies. They're simply adding more ways to punish people who may dissent from ideological control. Now, there is one reason I think that most of you watching is pretty aware of, and that's the background context in China right now. Right? The Chinese Communist Party faces tremendous instability that rises from the economy, from ideological differences of its people to the party, so the CCP deems this period as one that is dangerous to its power. So strengthening the ideological control seems to be the only way that the Chinese Communist Party knows how to establish stability. Xi Jinping wants the country politically and ideologically gone back to the 1950s and 60s. But this is just one of the series of important events that indicate to us that China is shifting dramatically to what we don't want it to be. Now, before I move on to other events to watch, let me talk about my sponsor today. Recently, I've been recommending people the Derma Roller face mask, and surprisingly, a lot of people actually bought it, and now they're temporarily out of stock. Normally, I wouldn't be selling skincare stuff on this channel, considering it's about China, but I've noticed that it provided me with some really big benefits. The mask provides intense hydration, and for me personally, it matters a lot because I have quite sensitive skin. So for wearing makeup on camera and then having to wash my face pretty often is quite damaging. So the mask, what I do is for once a week, I wear it for about 10 minutes, and it feels like my face is drinking a Gatorade. So it's very hydrating, and especially if you're a guy and you want to start a skincare routine, this would be a great first step, because for once a week for 10 minutes, and you get really, really good moisturization. Now, the funny thing is, now that I've ran out, I actually started getting more breakouts, so I'm also waiting to buy more when they have the stock again. The mask has been shipped from Germany, and I'm told that it will arrive in about 10 to 15 days. So if you pre-order now, it will be shipped to you a week after it arrives in the inventory. And if you order early, of course, you'll get it earlier than other people. So check out the link in the description. You'll get 15% off all products and free shipping for orders over $70 in the US. Okay, now back to the video. Now, China's preparing to decouple, right? Reducing reliance on foreign technology is a big part of that. But being able to keep assets in China is another. And China has recently passed a law allowing the authorities to seize and freeze the assets of foreign states. Now, that's a first for China. The signal here is that if a war breaks out or dramatic changes occur, China can take whatever assets other countries have in China as its own. For example, take Tesla's Gigafactory in Shanghai as one for BYD, or take whatever Tim is cooking in Apple from its China factories. Now, obviously, this is no different than what Russia did to seize the assets of foreign companies in Russia after it was sanctioned, but now legalized in China under a new law. We know that Xi Jinping is preparing for the eventual deterioration in their relationship with the Western world. About 4 days ago, we got a report from the South China Morning Post that says the CCP's Ministry of Science and Technology has now created a governing body called the Central Science and Technology Commission. And this was created after sweeping institutional revamp. And the plan comes from an overhaul earlier this year. From the name, you can already guess what it plans to do, which is to set up shop domestically to boost technology. In fact, it wouldn't surprise me now if this recent push for Huawei's new phone, which from what I've heard is mostly sold to government officials, comes from this new Science and Technology Commission. I mean, they're clearly pushing for a tech decoupling, right? And the speed honestly shocks me a little bit. Now, before Tim Apple could even decide how to say the latest iPhone 15 has the best camera ever,
put a big investment in our country. We appreciate it very much, Tim Apple.
Wow, what an amazing day.
Okay, all jokes aside, this is rather alarming to me. Only because the signs of decoupling from the CCP is much faster, more deliberate, and the preparation seems to be more complete than what we are prepared for here in the West. Right? They're preparing for war, we're preparing to, negotiate. And this new Science and Technology Commission, by the way, anytime you hear a commission, it's likely a direct controlling body from the CCP. So it's the top body for the CCP's military technology too, right? State-of-the-art technology all goes to the military application under the management of the party directly. This next part of tech decoupling will eventually be the electric vehicles. I mean, a notice right now shows that the Wuhan Railway Public Security Bureau has banned wholly foreign-owned smart vehicles, including Tesla. So the two American giants, you got the head goats, right? The Apples and the Teslas, they're going to get cleaved first. So that's not a sign of a welcoming foreign business environment, no matter who tells you otherwise. And if I haven't said this enough, the decoupling is happening much faster than what we are doing to prepare for it. So the question becomes, what happens when you decouple technologically? Well, the next step is internal circulation, right? Everything happens made in China, used in China, provided for China. At least technologically, that's what it seems like they want to do. I mean, this is the trend from what I've observed from the CCP. But the reality could be a little bit different. Here's why. Aside from the obvious bad qualities of Chinese tech brands, sometimes, many times actually copying or stealing the technology from Western companies, but the attempt to drive technology reliance to the minimum is an attempt because it cannot fully decouple. Here's why. Because the CCP still relies heavily on imported high-tech parts, something that its own companies don't know how to make. For example, the recent Huawei Mate 60 Pro, that new phone, is branded as the 7nm innovation champion from China, right? Pro-CCP accounts have been spamming me saying, wait till you see it, Huawei's got it all done, it's gonna change the world. Well, News Today says that SK Hynix, which is a South Korean company, is investigating the phone parts used in this new Huawei phone. Now, according to SK Hynix, it hasn't worked with Huawei since the sanctions in 2020. But the Mate 60 Pro uses Hynix memory and flash chip storage. You wonder how they get it, right? SK hasn't disclosed the investigation findings so far, but if I had to guess, Huawei likely had a stockpile prior to that 2020 ban. And right now, China doesn't have the domestic capabilities to actually produce the phone using all parts made in China. And so even if that so-called 7-nanometer chip, the Kirin 9000, inside the Mate 60 Pro, it's actually made through a multiple exposure process of lithography, which means that it uses an ASML machine, the DUV machine, to produce this using multiple light exposure, UV light exposure. And that process is a high-cost, low-yield process. So it's all about the propaganda purpose. Now, some tests even suggest that the phone itself is not any faster than their last generation's 4G devices. And so this means that China cannot fully decouple from the rest of the world, and it will try, but it will fail. All right, that's it today for the episode on China's newest moves, which is to ban iPhones from government devices, to outlaw people from wearing clothes that are deemed too offensive to its nation, and so many more things preparing for a decouple, but it will fail because it doesn't have the technology to do so. All right, I'm David Zhang. This is China Insider. If you enjoy the content, please leave a like, comment below your thoughts on this topic, and also subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. And make sure to check out the sponsor in the description about this amazing face mask, which I highly recommend. All right, until next time, bye-bye.